We're diving deep into America's obesity epidemic today, and it's a big one.
It really is.
We're talking serious numbers here, like 3/4 of adults are overweight or obese.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's from a study in The Lancet. And it's double what it was
Yeah.
back in 1990.
It is truly alarming.
It is.
And not just because of, just how big the numbers are,
Right.
but what they mean for people's health.
Exactly.
We're seeing so much more diabetes, heart disease,
Oh, yeah.
high blood pressure, and this isn't just about how people look.
Right.
It's about how long they live and their overall well-being.
Yeah. And it's not just adults, right?
Right.
I mean, the study also mentioned kids.
Yeah.
Over a third of children are also overweight or obese.
Yeah. And that's setting them up for a lifetime of potential health complications.
Exactly.
Which is a huge concern.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking to see kids, developing these conditions we used to only see in adults, like type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, even fatty liver disease.
Yeah, we usually don't think about kids having those problems.
Right, and these can have lasting effects even while they're still young.
So this brings up the big question.
Yeah.
What is causing all of this?
Right.
Is it as simple as just eating too much junk food and not getting enough exercise?
Well, it's definitely more complicated than that.
Okay.
I mean, while diet and exercise are important factors, there's a whole bunch of other things going on here.
Okay.
We need to think about how easy it is for people to get ultra-processed foods. And on the other hand, how hard it is to get fresh produce.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's the fact that people just aren't as active as they used to be.
Right.
Everyone's glued to their screens.
Yeah, so it's like our environment is working against us in a way.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
And then, there are these other environmental factors we're still learning about, like microplastics.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard about that.
And then, of course, we can't forget about genetics and physiology.
Yeah.
So, it's really important to remember that obesity is not just about willpower.
Right.
It's about all of these different things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's this really complex mix of factors that goes way beyond just what individuals choose to do.
Okay, and the study also points out that social determinants of health contribute to the differences we see in obesity rates across different communities.
Absolutely.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so we're seeing much higher rates of obesity in Black and Hispanic and Indigenous populations.
Okay.
And also low-income communities.
Oh.
So, things like food insecurity, lack of access to transportation income levels, and even education.
Wow.
All kind of come together
Yeah.
to make it much harder for certain groups to make healthy choices.
So where do we go from here? I mean, what can be done to tackle this problem that seems so complicated?
Well, there's no easy answer.
Right.
But I think a good place to start is by recognizing that we need to try a bunch of different things. It's about looking at both individual choices and things that are happening in society as a whole.
Okay.
For individuals, lifestyle changes, medication, and sometimes surgery all come into play.
Okay.
But there are obstacles too, like a lot of insurance plans don't cover things like behavioral therapy and weight loss medications or bariatric surgery.
And that's the procedure for weight loss.
Right, in severe cases.
Right.
So, there are a lot of roadblocks.
I've also been hearing a lot about these new GLP-1 drugs,
Right.
like Wegovy and Ozempic.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of attention.
Yeah. Do you think these are part of the solution?
Well, they're definitely showing some promise.
Okay.
They're a new class of medications for weight management, but we need more research to see what the long-term effects are.
Right.
And there's also the issue of cost and who has access to them.
Yeah, of course.
So we have to be realistic. Medication alone isn't going to solve this problem.
Right.
We need to change things at a bigger level to see a real difference across the whole population.
So what kind of changes are we talking about? Can you give us some examples?
Sure. We could think about things like providing subsidies for healthy foods
Okay.
or putting taxes on sugary drinks.
I've heard about those.
Yeah, and some local and state governments have actually had success with these approaches.
Really?
Yeah, and then on a federal level, we could think about regulating what goes into our food.
Okay.
And maybe even putting limits on how unhealthy foods are marketed, especially to kids.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think so.
The study also mentioned something interesting.
Yeah.
That the rate at which obesity is increasing has actually slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that? Is that a good sign?
It's something to think about, but not necessarily a reason to celebrate.
Yeah.
It might just mean that we've hit a point where the rates are already so high that there just isn't much room for them to keep going up as quickly as they were.
So it's not really a victory then?
right? More like a reflection of how widespread the problem is.
Wow.
And it really highlights the urgency of the situation. We can't afford to be complacent.
Absolutely.
We need to really address this now.
Okay, so let's talk about those interventions.
Right.
What can individuals do? What can communities do? And what can policymakers do to really turn things around?
Okay, so for individuals, I think the biggest thing is focusing on healthy lifestyle changes.
Okay.
Eating a balanced diet,
Right.
lots of fruits and vegetables and whole grains,
Uh.
and making sure to get regular exercise.
Right.
But we also need to recognize that for some people, this is really hard,
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point.
especially if they're facing challenges like poverty.
Okay,
Right.
so how do we address those challenges?
Right.
How do we make healthy choices easier for everyone?
That's where community-level interventions come in.
Okay.
Think about things like improving access to affordable, nutritious food in neighborhoods where it's needed most.
Yeah.
Also, creating safe spaces for physical activity
Yeah.
and offering education and support programs.
So it's about more than just telling people what to do. It's
Exactly.
about actually making those choices possible.
Yeah, it's about time we stopped blaming individuals and started working to create an environment that supports healthy choices for everyone.
No matter their background or circumstances.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about policymakers? What can they do on a larger scale to make things better?
They have a huge role to play.
Okay.
Think about things like subsidies for healthy foods or taxes on sugary drinks.
We talked about those earlier.
Right. And we could also think about stricter regulations on food marketing, especially to kids.
Yeah, I think that's a really important one.
Yeah, and it could really help reduce how much unhealthy processed food kids are eating.
I've also heard some people talking about clearer food labeling,
Yes.
especially on the front of packages.
Right, so people can see right away what they're getting.
Exactly. Just makes it easier to make good choices.
Transparency is really important.
Uh-huh.
People deserve to know what's in their food so they can make informed decisions.
And I think schools also have a big part to play.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. I mean, that's where kids are learning about so many things.
Yeah, school nutrition programs have so much potential.
Okay.
Imagine schools offering healthier meals and snacks
Yeah.
and limiting sugary drinks and teaching kids about nutrition.
So it sounds like everyone needs to work together on this.
That's exactly right.
Individuals, communities, and policymakers.
It's not about pointing fingers.
Yeah.
It's about understanding all the different things that are contributing to this problem
Yeah.
and then working together to create a healthier future for everyone.
This is all really helpful.
Good.
It's giving me a much better understanding of how complicated this issue is
I'm glad.
and what we need to do to fix it.
And hopefully our listeners are feeling that way too.
Absolutely.
It's a daunting challenge for sure.
Yeah, it is.
But there's also a lot of reason for hope.
That's good to hear.
The more we learn about obesity,
Mm-hmm.
the better equipped we'll be to come up with solutions.
Yeah.
And the more we work together, the more likely we are to succeed.
This brings up another question.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about how obesity rates seem to be leveling off.
Right.
Does that mean we can kind of relax a little bit?
Not at all. I mean, the rate might be slowing down, but the number of people who are obese is still really high.
Right.
And even a small increase in body mass index
Okay.
can have serious consequences for your health.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And we also can't forget about the groups that are disproportionately affected by obesity,
Yeah.
especially those facing socioeconomic disadvantages.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to keep working on this issue with urgency and compassion.
Yeah, it's a really powerful reminder.
We can't let our guard down just because the numbers aren't going up as fast anymore.
Absolutely. We have to stay focused.
This fight is far from over. Yeah.
We need to stay vigilant and committed and keep coming up with new and creative ways to address this problem.
This has been such an informative deep dive.
I'm glad you think so.
It's given me, and I hope our listener,
Right.
a much deeper understanding of how complicated this issue is and how many different things we need to do to solve it.
It's not a simple problem.
No, it's not. So what can our listener do,
Right?
even just as one person, to help?
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by how big this problem is.
Yeah.
But even small changes can make a difference.
Okay.
Start by focusing on your own health.
Okay.
Make gradual changes to your diet and how much you exercise,
Mm-hmm.
and support local initiatives that are promoting healthy eating and active living.
Yeah.
And don't forget to advocate for policies that make healthy choices easier for everyone.
I love that advocate.
It's important.
It reminds us that we all have a part to play in this.
Exactly. We're not just watching this happen.
Right.
We can actually do something about it.
And it's not about being perfect. Right.
It's about making progress one step at a time.
Every healthy choice you make
Okay.
helps create a healthier future for you and your community.
Speaking of the future, what gives you hope?
That's a good question.
What are some of the most promising things happening right now?
You know, one thing I'm really excited about is personalized medicine.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that.
The more we learn about what causes obesity, the better we'll be able to tailor interventions to meet people's specific needs.
So it's not just one size fits all anymore.
Right.
It's about figuring out what works best for each person.
This could involve personalized diet recommendations,
Okay.
exercise programs, or even medications that are designed for your specific genetic makeup.
That sounds really amazing.
It is.
What about behavioral therapy?
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of interesting research happening in that area, too.
There is. It's another area with a ton of potential. We're learning so much about how our thoughts and behaviors affect our eating habits and activity levels.
That's interesting.
And this knowledge can help us develop more effective strategies for adopting and maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
Okay.
You know, things like cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness training, and even using technology to track progress and provide support.
It's amazing how technology is changing everything,
It really is.
including how we approach healthcare.
You know, we have wearable fitness trackers,
Right.
apps that give you personalized nutrition advice.
Wow.
It's really changing the game.
So it sounds like there are a lot of reasons to be optimistic.
I think so.
It sounds like we're making real progress.
There are so many exciting developments on the horizon.
That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah, there are. And, you know, even though the obesity epidemic is this huge problem, the fact that people are more aware of it now, and there's so much research going on, and we're coming up with new solutions all the time, you know, it makes me feel like we can turn things around and create a healthier future for everyone.
I like that, you know, we've been focusing a lot on the problems and the challenges.
Yeah.
It's good to remember that there are people out there working on solutions.
Absolutely.
And that things are getting better.
And it's not about blaming anyone.
Right.
It's about understanding and having compassion and working together to create a world where everyone has a chance to be healthy.
I think that's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been so informative.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's really opened my eyes, and I hope it's done the same for our listeners.
Me too.
You know, the fight against obesity is a long one, but we can do it.
We can?
So let's keep learning and advocating and supporting each other
Absolutely.
on this journey to a healthier future.